hey man, it's your week to clean the toilets, you know? But maybe next week it's going to be your week to be president. So
your answer to universal income is to just have like a chore sheet for the world.
basically,
Hey, it's Zengineering. I'm Adam.
Brian,
So this is a new format we're going to try, calling them Shorties.
Shorties. What's up, Shorty?
What's up, Shorty? We were trying to do hit list episodes, and we kept running into things that we were like, okay, I only want to talk about that for 15 minutes, but it's heavy enough or like broad enough that after I'm finished, it's hard to go to another thing on a list and just be like, okay, on to mass incarceration.
I think our hit list topics got too deep sometimes. So we're just slicing them up and making them into shorties.
Back, and we're going to slice them up and we're going to drop them in between the bigger episodes. So this is one of those. Dig it. First thing I want to hear about off the list is one that you put on here. It says Animal Kingdom sex.
Oh, yeah. One of my favorites. This one, I may have shared this on our Facebook page. It's really interesting. It's like 10 little infographics.
We definitely will in the secret page you get access to if you join us on Patreon.
Totally.
Bam!
Nailed it.
Integrated promo.
Couldn't be a better segue there. So it's like 10 graphics. They're like these cute little cartoons of men and women, and they're like personified versions of Animal Kingdom. So like spotted hyena, ants, birds of paradise, bonobo, which is like a very close ape relative of ours, cuttlefish, discus fish. And it's cool because it has these cute little cartoons, but then it also has this description about like how sex and mating and families and relationships work in these animal species. Courtship. Yeah, it's this stuff where like I think everyone knows that animals are a little different, but I've never really stopped and read about how 10 different species, how like their hierarchies work, because it's not just sex. Like as humans, sex is in the media everywhere, but like sex, that particular thing actually drives everything else in society.
Procreation. The impulse to procreate literally drives everything. Alive.
Everything. Right. So
if you're alive, you have some inbuilt instinct to procreate. That's why you're alive.
Absolutely. An interesting factoid that I like, that's obvious when you say it, but in your family lineage, every single person before you, every single person who's ever existed before you in your family lineage mated and produced a child. Because if they didn't, your lineage would have stopped.
We were talking about uncomfortable topics, and I was like, it's so absurd that sex is an uncomfortable topic, because if you exist and you're listening to this, sex happened. Unless you're one of like 20 people ever.
That would be a good shirt. If you're reading this, sex happened.
I think that was exactly your response when I said it.
Well, I'm going to chat it into our shirt channel, which I don't think we have. Oh, we have a store channel.
Of what percentage of life on the planet what percentage of that do you think procreates sexually like humans do? Right? So we think of it as like, well, that's the right way to do it, right? Certainly people try to make laws based on the, quote, right way to have sex, which is the right way to reproduce. Like, are we in the minority on the planet in terms of our monogamous...
Well, very specifically, the bonobo, I'm not sure I'm saying that right, bonobo, it's a
monkey.
It's a type of monkey, right? And this little article actually says it's our closest relative. They're actually my favorite one. The graphic is 2 women and 2 guys, like these little cartoons, just all snuggled up, kissing and hugging and caressing each other. And the story is that in their society, in the bonobo society, everything, they're constantly having sex.
In general, everything is an excuse for sex in bonobo society.
Well, the discussion about it actually is like whenever things get heated, whenever there's like two guys that are like starting to fight over a girl, some other chick will come in, they'll all have sex, and then they'll like discuss what the relationship issue is. And so even like dudes have it. Like dudes will get into a fight and then they'll stop and have sex with each other, and then they'll be friends, they'll like cuddle for a little bit and then stop fighting. And so
The funny thing that makes me think is like the joke. I think it's probably popped up most prevalently in like Something About Mary, right? That scene where he's jerking off before he goes out because one of his friends told him, like, you got to clear your head first, man.
yeah.
It's the same idea, except
Totally.
it's like, hey, we're about to have a fight. Like, this almost came to blows. We better jerk each other off to make sure we're making good decisions.
Totally. They make that specific reference. I mean, these descriptions are I haven't fact checked any of these, but they seem really interesting. They seem pretty reasonable, but they're funny to read. This one, let me find this one. If a blah, blah, say a female might hit a baby and the mother will chase her, but afterwards they will rub their clitorises together to make up. Or a male might start getting aggressive with a female. Or a male might start getting aggressive and a female will grab him and give him a quickie to make him relax.
Well, so here's the question, I guess, which is, so if you try to think about how much sex happens that isn't, and I don't mean the quantity of sex, I mean, like percentage-wise, how much of sex that's happening isn't the way that humans do it? Do you think the difference is responsible for our, like, our persistence or our success as a species? Or do you think it has nothing to do with it, and we should maybe behave that way, and then we would be even better?
That's a good question. That's a really good question, right? It seems pretty irresponsible to suggest that our mating habits aren't responsible for our success, since that is like one of the most important things, right? That is like one of the biggest driving forces. So the concept of one man, one woman. But I think realistically, so scoot down to the side-blotched lizard, and it's an interesting one, because in the side-blotched lizard, there are three very distinct types of males that exist. One that's like, and this isn't just like in human society, we're like, oh, that guy's a meathead and that guy's a dork. These are like, they're physically different. They're identifiable as like three different types of male. One is the dominant male.
Different.
I think they're different colored, they're different weight.
Features.
One actually looks like the female, but actually happens to be a male. One is like huge and buff and kind of stereotypical like meathead dude. One's like caring, cuddling guy, but they're physically different creatures. Like you can put them all, you can identify them. And it's an interesting one because it mimics kind of these like stereotypes about humans, but this is an actual like major physiological differences here.
Right. So you can look at the guy's throat color and go, that's a nerd.
Right, exactly. and it correlates that way too. There's like in the side-blotched lizard kingdom, there's a giant male who mates with lots of females but doesn't really like them. He has a huge territory. They all hang out. Then there's like the caring, nerdy one who mates with a single female for life, has a tiny territory that they defend together. And then there's like the little dude who looks like the females, and he lives at the edge of the meathead guy's lizard's territory, and he just sneaks in and mates with the women when the other guy's not around. That's exactly how they describe it. And it's such a funny, it's like all of those things exist in human society.
Right.
I mean, if you look at like the quote unquote meatheads, rulers and stuff, they've traditionally just had tons of mistresses.
And they're all sort of socially regarded differently. So I wonder if the lizards are like, that fucking weasel. Like, that's that guy. You know, like, this fucking guy's going to swoop in here and
Get out of here.
grab your chick while you're not looking. Put a baby in her.
In any case, these were like really funny to read. The cartoons are cool, and the first time I read through these, they hit me as like really interesting perspective on how.
I think the
how we
most
regard this
important
stuff as
question is, once we have to hire employees for Zengineering,
Mm-hmm.
do we want to breed a company culture around jerking off before meetings?
Really awkward question. I think we'll have to revisit it another time.
Oh, perfect. So that's this week's Shorty. I don't, a prefab outro feels weird, but let's own it. Own it.
I hope
Thanks
that
for
you
listening to
enjoyed.
another one.
I hope that Shorty was good. I hope it wasn't too short. I hope it wasn't too long.
I hope it wasn't too stupid.
Uh,
Thanks again to our backers on Patreon that help us out.
and rate and review us on iTunes, please. That's
Tell a friend.
super helpful.
And talk to us on the socials. We want to know what you think. And these shorties exist because people said, "Hey, what if you did shorter ones?" Okay.
Mission accomplished.
I'm Adam.
I'm Brian.
We'll see you next week.
Peace.
Okay, and that one felt just stupid enough that I think we can run it every week and people will enjoy it. But that's not where.